Greetings everyone, I am Diego Medina and today I'm going to present my Hito Evaluativo number 3 for my professional practicum assessment. So to contextualize, the Hito Evaluativo, it's about a needs analysis implementation on my professional practicum and also a unit plan design based on that needs analysis that was in the major of English pedagogy. So to give about educational context, I'm going to give you some details. In my practicum, I'm doing it in the Colegio Adventista de Concepción, that is a private subsidized school that is also religious oriented. For our resources, we have technological resources such as computer labs, tablets, and screens to project different activities, and also computers in the classes for the teacher to use in the different topics and assignments. Now, from the characteristics of my class, I did my needs analysis and unit plan in a 9th grade, that is around 35 students that have an English level between A1 and B1. They have a lot of classes, or English classes, around 6 per week, so they're like a specialized kind of students in the English language. So for my needs analysis, I focus on 4 main points. That is, for example, number 1, confidence of the students, the interest of the students, their level of English, and their attitude towards learning. I did it in Google Forms format, so it could be more easy to analyze the results and also for them to complete the needs analysis. So as you can see in the presentation, there are certain questions that I made. For example, what would make English classes more interesting, pointing to the interest of the students. Also, which aspect of the English language would they like to improve, and we have, for example, speaking fluently, understand movies, etc. So about their interest in the language. So the results are the following. In the most important questions that I point here, there are 4 important parts. The first is, how do you feel about your English level? In which 50% of my students, their 30 answers, says that they feel pretty good in their English level. At 26% feel confident, and the rest need some help or even struggle with it. Now, what would make English classes more interesting? The 60% of the majority of the students mentioned that they would like more games, and the rest divides into music and videos, real life experiences, and more practice on grammar or vocabulary. Also, we have the level of English of the students. In this case, I ask simple questions such as, I can understand simple sentences, or not questions but affirmations, and they have to answer a yes or no question. So they mention in the majority of them that they are able to understand simple sentences or short text in English and understand what they say, and also the attitude towards learning, where I saw they feel very nervous or even anxious when they have to talk in English, or they have to participate. Even though they're willing to participate, they won't because of these anxious attitudes. So align this, one important thing to mention is they don't use the common curriculum of the Ministry of Education. They use a book that is called Harmonize, that is from Oxford. So they use this particular book to plan their lessons. So based on the Harmonized book, and also in the use of my needs analysis, I implement the following alignments to the course objectives, all of them trying to point to different inputs such as speaking and writing, that were the productive skills. So at the end of the lesson, they could, for example, identify and describe key environmental issues. This is based on that unit that is called Make a Difference, talking about environmental issues, and in vocabulary you have second conditional and also indefinite pronouns. Now, to incorporate all these alignments with the course objectives, I implement them with the needs analysis. Now, the adaptations that I made for the material that we had is the use of ICTs, especially in games and breaks during activities. I made these implementations because of the reluctant attitude to write or to participate in written form. So in this case, I use, for example, tablets for them to draw different topics, and also the use of cell phones to play Kahoot about the different vocabulary, grammar, structure, and occupations. In this case, was one of the learnings during this lesson. Now, obviously, the differentiation strategies that I use are, for example, as I mentioned, activity of drawing. I noticed that some of my students, or around 25%, are great at drawing. So I create an activity that doesn't require to have them writing, but to participating in pairs or in groups, because they enjoy doing group activities. So they have to draw in pairs, and also group participation activities where there is no only one person responding, but group responses. For example, in this activity, I present them different creations of the humanity, and they have to raise their hands if they are if they have been agreeing or disagreeing with the different topics. So, as an assessment and feedback that I gave, the most important is monitoring and talking to them. And also, for the assessment, I use group work. In this image, I have an example of a criteria that I use for the lesson number 5, that they have to create a wish tree about different topics on the activity of SDGs and the second conditional. Now, some cultural and linguistic considerations in this is the examples that I use for them, especially during this unit, was related with their class and their community context. So, for example, if they have recycled before, or they try to use different types of energy, I use that. And also, the student understands spoken English, but they are reluctant to participate. They have a good level of English between A1 and B1, but in the majority of cases, they have between A2 and B1. So they have these different backgrounds where we consider that it's important for them to always use English in classes. We try to use English most of the time in instructions, in ICQs and CCQs, and even during questions, like personalized questions. So it's important for them to use the English, because we have the advanced group in our classes on 9th grade. Now, what about, for example, the effectiveness of the lessons? They were effective? I believe so. Obviously, there is space for improvement. In my case, I had different problems, for example, with ICQs and CCQs, and also with my teacher talking time. So some changes and adjustments that I would like to do for my future classes as a teacher are try to adjust these times for me to talk less and listen more to my students, so for them to participate, and also for them to be encouraged to be part of the class. Now, obviously, for my continuous improvements, I would like to develop more classroom management, because sometimes they are young, so they like to talk and also stand up and go around the class. Or sometimes when I'm giving instructions, they are not listening to the instructions, or only part of the class is listening, so that part that is not usually distract the rest. And also, I would like to encourage my teacher identity. That is one of the improvements that I made during this practicum, is that I found myself listening more to my students in a personal way, listening to their problems, listening to their situations, and try to be comprehensive, and also encouraging them to overcome those difficulties in the language. So that was my presentation of my Hito number 3. These are my reference for the topic. So thank you for your attention, and see you on the next time.